Ever opened this program and just wondered, what kind of big brain PhD degree do I need to understand this? Don't worry, I'm going to take you through Davinci Resolve on easy mode. Most people learning to edit, probably like you, are trying to get into the editing industry or are content creators. I understand being on a budget can be kind of hard when trying to afford industry standard software that costs $40 to $50 a month to even use. So Davinci Resolve is an amazing editing software that you can use to start creating your content today. Just to clarify, I am in no way sponsored by Blackmagic Design or the team behind Davinci Resolve, but I just want to say I'm a firm believer in the content that you're able to make on the software. Now, something you need to understand, like anything, editing is a sort of art form, and sort of like any other art, like say if you're learning to draw, it will take practice to get good at, and with practice I'm pretty sure you'll make pod content. But at least hopefully this tutorial type video will help you learn the software enough to which you can start learning how to use your clips to create good content. So if you don't know how to install Davinci Resolve, you can go into the description and find the link that will take you to Davinci Resolve's website with the latest version of the software. It is currently available on Mac, Windows and Linux, and at the time of recording there is a version of Davinci Resolve 16 called Davinci Resolve 16 Studio, which is a paid version of the software that comes with some extra features. However, everything you should ever need in your content creation needs while editing can be found in the free version. So upon opening for the first time, you'll see this sort of window with untitled project on it. If you want to create a new project, you can go down here in the bottom right and click New Project, and you can type in your whatever project name you'll ever need. So for example, I've got a couple of projects here with like thumbnails and stuff, which is really easy to come back and find your projects if you would ever need to find them in the future, or if you're needing to find one, say if you've gone away for a break and you sort of saved it but closed the program, come back and find your project that you were working on. So you've created your first project and you'll be met with a screen like this. And now for this video, all you need to do is look in the bottom here, and there will be the third one across. It's the sort of edit tab. If you have it full screened, you will see it will say edit. If not, if you've got it sort of windowed, you'll see it sort of like this, where it's a sort of timeline looking thing. Click the edit tab, and that'll be all you need for this video. Then once you've got that clicked and then you're on the edit tab, you'll be met with this screen here. Now, some prerequisites that I would recommend doing if this is your first time in the application is to click on the top right of this inspector tab. This will come in handy later. So what you'll need to do is you need to go to the top here where it says File, and then go to project settings, or if you're into sort of macros and sort of keybind stuff, that is Shift 9. And here you'll be taken to the master settings for that specific project. Here you've got your timeline resolution, your timeline frame rate, and your playback frame rate. This is what we'll be looking at in your timeline format. If you're doing any kind of other type of video that would not need to use 1920 by 1080, so say if you're doing a slightly low res video for whatever reason, you can just click here and change to whichever fits your need. But what we're going to be taking a look at here is the timeline frame rate and the playback frame rate. Depending on the sort of footage of editing, if you're doing a sort of cinematography type edit or for like film, I would recommend keeping it on 24 frames per second to give it that cinematic feel. However, since we're doing sort of gaming editing content, most footages will be either 30 FPS or 60 FPS. So I'm going to change to 60 in my timeline frame rate and type in 60 on my playback frame rate. If you ever notice that when you're going back through your footage and it seems really slow, it's probably because of your playback frame rate. So make sure that it is 60 when you start. Now it's time to get into the meat of this editing software. Now would be a good time to collect some footage that I'm going to be using for a sort of practice run on this edit. Here I have 3 clips of Modern Warfare gameplay that I'm going to be using as a reference for this tutorial. So what you want to do is you want to drag and drop your footage from your folder into this no clips in media pool sort of rectangle. So what you need to do is drag and it will say copy and just put it in here. And then you'll see that your clips have shown up in your media pool. Whichever clip you want to use first on your timeline from your media pool. So I'm going to use this first one here. And you'll see it'll sort of take a moment to sort of load in, and then the waveforms to load in, and just drag it to the start. So now that you have your footage in your timeline, you want to be able to zoom in and out on your timeline. Now I must say, if there's something you must learn, it's certain macros. And to zoom in and out, all you need to do is hold Control and Alt and use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. After some time, you'll notice that it will really speed up your workflow. If you can't wrap around 2 buttons, then you can just use this little slider to go in and out. So now time to start cutting up your footage. I have the main clip I want to use of this throwing knife kill, but I don't want the footage before it. So what you want to do is with your this sort of middle bar here, you want to go to the blade tool, or if you keybinds, it's B. So it should be pretty easy to remember because B and blade. You can use this to cut wherever you like in your footage, like so. By default, the snap and magnet modes are already enabled, so you can just drag the playhead over where you want to cut and hover over it, and it will snap to where you want to cut it. Footage, all you need to do is click the cursor mode, which should already be there on default next to blade tool, and for that it's A in terms of your keybinds. So now that you have these separate clips and you don't want this sort of first half of the footage, all you need to do is, to get rid of this particular clip, is click on it and then do Control and X. That is another key one that I recommend sort of remembering, sort of like the Control, Alt and the scroll wheel for you zoom in, because there is a thing where you can do delete, but I think it moves all your footage across, and if you've done a really long edit and you've done a lot of stuff but there's gaps in it, and you hit delete to like delete a clip on like sort of accident, it will collapse all that footage that you've done all together, and it will completely ruin your edit. So if you ever make that mistake, just get calm, do Control Z, and then make sure you do Control and X. Or if you don't want to do keybind, you can right click and do cut. So once you've done and cut it, all you need to do is then use the selection tool to come and drag all the way to the start. Now for this, I wanted to sort of show shorten the clip and get a bit of flow going in terms of the clip. All you need to do for this is drag one of the sides on either side sort of closer in. Because of the snap tool, it will snap towards your playhead. So if there is a particular place that you want to start on, just zoom in and then scroll to where you want to start. I want to start just as he's entering this cargo area and drag across. So I want this final part to sort of finish and sort of like when this sort of refill sound hits. There we go. So I want to drag this to there. So here we have the full clip. Like that. So it's really nice and full. There's stuff happening on screen, and it finishes where there might not be anything on screen, there's audio there. And so now you have your first clip cut down and roughly edited. Now all you need to do is drag in your next clip and use the play tool where necessary to have the prime bits of footage. So a tip I must give you to understand how footage should be cut: having footage with areas of complete silence or having nothing on screen will bore any viewer and will make your edits feel worse, sort of by default. So for example, it's best to look at your wavelengths in your audio track to easily spot areas in the audio where nothing's happening. Then next, skim through the sort of clips and see if there's any particular areas you don't want to use, even if there is sound there. For example, here I'm shooting and nothing is happening. That doesn't benefit to the video and sort of the flow to it. So let's cut that out and find a place where footage does work. Here right at the end, we got a nice decent flick that we can use, decent headshot. So we're going to cut out all the footage before. So like example, blade, clip that out, Control X, and then we've got this footage here. So there's sort of this zoom in area where nothing's really happening either. So sort of to get the flow going, what we're going to do is we're going to collapse it here, get the kill, and sort of reload and let all this sort of like that main hit sound stops. We're going to collapse that there and drag that along to our previous clip. If you want to keep a clip that has low audio levels without boring a viewer, the next best way to do so is with a bit of music. My favorite site for a wide range of royalty-free music is filmmusic.io. It was set up by Kevin MacLeod, the guy that made Incompetech. I don't think Incompetech exists anymore, but this is sort of his platform where there's a bunch. It's not just his music; it's a bunch of different sort of wide ranges of genres that you can use depending on what kind of video and sort of style you want to go for. So, I want to add this music here. It's called "Chased by Alexander Nakarada" from filmmusic.io. Currently, we can see here we only have one video and audio tracks. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change the amount of video and audio tracks we have. What you want to do is you want to come sort of underneath here where it says audio 1, right click, add tracks, and that will allow you to change the video tracks and audio tracks. So I won't be needing any video tracks, but I will be needing one audio track. So then you just click here, add tracks, and now I have another audio track. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag my music into my media pool, and then I'm going to drag my music into the new audio track I've just made. A good habit to do is if you're having trouble keeping up knowing which audio track is for which, all you need to do is is double click on where it says video 1, so say for example main footage, so you can keep track of which timeline, which audio track or video track is doing what. Now that I notice that the music is a bit too loud for my clips, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the volume. To change the volume of any audio in the audio tracks, you see that there is this sort of grey line going through the center of the clips, and then there's a slightly whiter line that goes just above it. What you need to do is hover over that slightly whiter line. It might be hard to see, but just if you move your cursor around, you'll see that it turns into sort of up and down arrows. This is sort of your volume slider. Doing this up will increase your volume, bringing it down will decrease your volume. Here you can see that whenever I decrease the volume by dragging the mouse down, there is like the numbers goes into minus, and then when I bring it up, the numbers goes plus. The dBs mean decibels. It's just the measurement of sort of volume. So I noticed that with music that comes out of filmmusic.io or really anything, bringing it to sort of a between sort of -15 and -25 is sort of where you want to keep your music, to sort of have your music be there but not be either too quiet or too loud. So I'm going to have my footage at -15.7 for this clip because it sounds sort of the best. And I notice here that there is a sort of definite kick in my music, sort of add to the flow of the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the music to sort of where that kick is most intense, do that right on the sort of hit marker that's on screen, and then drag that back so it sort of fades and brings in, and sort of like the beat of it really works with it and gives it that really nice flow. So now that we've got the music in place and nicely cut towards the footage, I want to sort of add in some fade-ins and fade-outs to sort of really make the sort of start of the video work with the footage and sort of fade out to sort of end the footage. To do this, you'll notice whenever you hover over any clips, there is these sort of white markers that appear on top of the clips that you're working with. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly, if you ever want to change the sort of height of your timelines, line between the sort of your toolbar and your timeline, all you need to do is hover between that and this sort of arrow symbol comes up, and then you can just drag that. And then if you want to sort of change the distance between your footages, you can just drag that big grey line in between them, the video and the audio tracks, and so you can have a better view of your tracks. With these white markers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it forward sort of half a second, depending on your frame rate would depend on how much the footage fades in. Because say for example here that it goes to +30 here, because I'm working with 60 FPS footage, half a second would actually be 15 frames and not 30 frames, because it's based on frames rather than the seconds when you're scrolling across. So for example, if I was working with 30 frames per second footage, the same amount of time, so say here where it's 15 frames is half as much as 60 frames. So I'm going to have everything sort of half a second fade in, so that when we start this, it's sort of a nice and big, like sort of quick intro in to sort of really give the footage some kick, especially with that ride up in the sort of sound and like the really big hits and the sound just really driving that sort of the hits of the sort of like throwing knives and the gunshots. So what I'm going to do to sort of finish my project is to have this one last clip, drag it in, and I'm going to do some edits on this clip to make sure that the footage is nice and crisp how I want it. So I know my main part of the footage starts sort of here, so what I'm going to do is going to use the blade tool, cut again, do that, drag it in, and if you ever notice that your whenever you use your Control Alt and zoom in, it zooms in on the playhead. So make sure that you're zooming in on wherever you want to zoom in. So I want to zoom in on my footage here, and I'm going to do some cleanup and make sure that it's all smooth. Another tool to make sure you keep useful is your arrow keys. Your left arrow key brings back your playhead like frame by frame. So if you ever need to get really precise sort of cuts, you can use that to go frame by frame and check where you want to cut. And we're about to go on this jump up, so to sort of bring into the footage like again, so it's that the cuts feel cohesive, use the sort of motion to sort of bring it up into the next set of kills, because it's another thing. So it's like, because having basic cuts, you want to try and make sure that your footage works, because having stark cuts, unless there's something backing it up, it will feel really sort of plain thing, or that ruins the flow. Having something to sort of ride into the next clip will really help with the sort of smoothness and the flow of your clips. So we have that fully cut the way I like it, and I feel like the footage is cohesive enough, but I feel like there needs to be something a bit there. So here is where like your music doesn't have to make your music work for you if you're using music, because having the music there, working with your footage to sort of build, say if you want to sort of have attention and sort of like have your start, middle, and end, make your music and your footage work together. So for example here, it doesn't end climactically the way that, say, you want your start, middle, and end would. The thing is, it sort of ends like mid-climax, and it's just a bit like I mean, I feel a bit empty. I feel like there's a bit more. Music generally will have your start, middle, and end. So you want to have your big climactic finish, so say right at the end here. Sort of that tapers off. So you want to use this. Make sure that I have enough here. So I'm going to sort of cut the end sort of tail of this. Drag this all the way sort of forward and bring it in. And make sure that the sort of end of the footage works in terms of the sort of fade out as we sort of finish the footage. So as you see there, at the end of it, it sort of fades out and finishes the way that I personally want it to be. So I want it to have sort of the start, middle, and end. So what I'm going to use is these hit markers as sort of an indication as to when to... So using that music sort of to build up where you sort of like where your shots are. This is very specific to this footage, but obviously if you're doing gameplay sort of footage like this, where you want to make sure that your edits feel sort of consistent and flow well, making sure that your music and your audio and your footage all work together to make sort of a nice time flow that will sort of appease your viewer. Because the thing is, if it was very stuttery, say for example like it was back here and like all the way here, and although it seemed alright, so because obviously in sort of this music here, it sounds like it's still building up, and then the music just cuts for some random reason to the sort of final footage, and it doesn't feel right. But having it like this, sort of where it builds into this sort of start, so bringing up with the sort of audio, like even then it's still a bit off. And to sort of counteract this, what I'm going to use is a little bit of effects. I have what I'm going to use is for this specific sort of transition where sort of the music doesn't work particularly well, I'm going to use this crossfade here, and I have this crossfade between and sort of bring that crossfade really far out, so it brings it up and into the sort of climactic end that you sort of get with this. So it's not like a stark sort of hit like it is if you cut your footage there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fade out. But the thing is, well, I would say classic cinematography sort of skills, but having a sort of fast finish but like sort of slow end sort of ease out will sort of like sort of traditionally will sort of settle your viewer sort of out, and it's like, well, I finished that clip now. Like you sort of feel relaxed, and it's better to, well, depending on the sort of effect you're going for, having your viewer feel relaxed on that end, or like it's like, oh, I feel like I enjoyed that, because everyone like it's on average people enjoy being sort of relaxed, sort of like that. Oh, I feel relaxed, I enjoyed that, let's go watch another one. You know what I mean? So having your edit sort of finish in that sort of way, sort of like calmly, might work a lot better, or just at least finish in a way that will appease the viewer. For this, I'm going to, instead of having it sort of like the half second, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it out by 2 seconds for each audio track, as well as the video track, and that should sort of give a good start and finish to the footage. So that's what we have so far, but the thing is, I feel like it needs just a little bit of sort of zoom in type effects. Maybe it might sort of to bring in the footage a bit more, because the fade in, I feel like there's not enough there in terms of tangible footage that is there, but I think I feel like I need something a bit different there. So what I'm going to show you is the inspector tool. I'm going to show you how to do sort of zoom in effects. I'm going to use the zoom in effect here at the start, and what I want to do is sort of have the footage sort of scale up and into as the fade brings in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that your inspector tool is open here on the top right. It will start on video if you open it for the first time. Here in the transform category sort of tab, you will see that there is zoom, position, rotation angle, anchor point, pitch, yaw, and flip. The main ones that I'm going to be concerned with today is going to be the zoom section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this sort of diamond icon. This is your keyframe, and keyframes are very useful in terms of your transition between start and finish in your sort of zoom or position or whatever you're trying to do. So here we're going to have a starting keyframe here right at the start of the footage, and then I'm going to drag to the end of the fade out and have another keyframe. And to go back between keyframes, there are these arrows next to the so say here for the next, there's an arrow to go back. This will take me back to the start of that keyframe, and then here goes the back to that same keyframe. So I want my zoom to start on, like, to end on 1, but I want to have my zoom start on 0, and that 0 will be completely like there's nothing there. So if we hit start now, that sort of fades and sort of zooms in. And it's sort of just something a bit different to sort of bring into the footage that isn't just a fade in. That's pretty classic. So now that we have added that zoom effect, it's time to look at the final footage. The thing you want to make sure that you keep on checking is that Davinci Resolve is really good for letting you know is when you've done like sort of a lot of work. Here at the top, your project, if you haven't noticed throughout when we've been editing, it will tell you how long that you've not been saving for. And say for example it's not saved for 30 minutes, make sure that you save you'll know if you haven't sort of saved in a while, because it will go from a grey color saying edited to a yellow color edited, and then this final red edited. If it's on red edited, then you know that you should be saving, because otherwise you're going to miss out. So say for example if your PC crashed or for whatever reason and you lost your work, you won't be able to recover that time that you lost. So make sure that you go to file and save project, and it'll instantly save it. You don't need to save it to any sort of folder or anything, and that's the really nice thing. So you can go back into sort of that first panel and find your project. To export your finished project, what you want to do is go to the bottom tab down here where we click the edit tab, and you want to go to your deliver tab, and it will bring up this whole new menu where you'll see here in your timeline, as well as some new sort of icons and sort of windows. What you want to sort of divert your eye to is this left side here with your render settings. So what you want to do is you want to make your file name whatever. So I'm going to change it to edit project, and here you will change your location. So here for the location, I want to have it on my desktop in my edit clips here, and save it as edit project. And then what you want to do is you want to scroll down here, and you'll see that you'll make sure that you want to export video. That will by default be ticked, and you want to make sure that your format is MP4. If you're editing on a Mac, then I guess QuickTime, and like if you want to use QuickTime. I'd highly recommend using MP4 because it's universal anyways. Make sure that your codec is H.264. I think that's the only option it gives you. Resolution, if you want to make any last minute changes to your resolution to sort of scale up, I don't know if you want to scale up to 1440p from 1080p, that's probably wrong, but if you want to scale down to 720p for any reason, you can do. Best to keep your quality automatic at best. Audio is fine to keep at AAC. Make sure your data rate is at 192. Bit depth 16 will be perfect, and the file is the same as it is up here. What you want to do here is you want to go to add render queue, and it will then bring it over here to your render queue, and then what you want to do is hit start render. Here it will tell you how long your edit has got left to render. So here our project is now completed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up the folder that we had exported our project to, and we're going to open it and see if it is finally good. What the fuck was that? So I think that edit turned out quite nicely. I know it means nothing to me, but the thing is, I hope that the sort of editing techniques and the sort of tutorials helps you try and sort of get into the sort of editing and know what you're doing in terms of as far as Davinci goes, and sort of the tools and how to use them. It's best to sort of look through the sort of maybe like the effects and how to use them. I will be doing sort of more advanced tutorials. I don't know if this video will benefit anyone, but I noticed that a lot of people come to my chat and say like, oh, how do you do these edits? It's definitely practice and learning, and you need to dedicate yourself at least sort of to it. Editing your clips, maybe even finding other people's clips and editing it, even if it's not your own, will definitely help in terms of sort of like your skill set and learning it. If you have any other sort of stuff that you definitely want to see, sort of like how to do subtitling properly, other sort of advanced like transitions and stuff, or how to sort of more in depth of how like music can help with your sort of flow in your videos. There's stuff I have planned in terms of later to do. But apart from that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And at least learned something from it, because if not, then I did this for nothing. But anyways, I hope you learned something from this video. If you haven't, then I guess you can dislike the video. But if you did learn something, I guess like the video. Subscribe too, that'll be kind of pog. I stream like every week, doing commissioned edits for people. So come along, twitch.tv/thickconk, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. I don't even know if I'll fucking make this video, but yikes. Yeah, if you see this clip, then, I mean, I did make the video, so... Pog.